They appeared out of nowhere, two tiny puppies, dirty and trembling, blocking the man's path. One paw reached out, as if begging him not to leave. He thought they were simply lost until he followed them. What he discovered moments later shattered his heart and changed everything. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The sun was dipping low over the fields, painting the rural road in shades of gold. Daniel walked at an easy pace, enjoying the quiet, the only sound the soft crunch of gravel under his boots. He hadn't seen another soul for miles, until he noticed movement ahead. Two small figures emerged from the tall grass. At first, he thought they were fox cubs, but as they stepped into the light, his breath caught. They were German shepherd puppies, no more than a few months old. Their fur was matted with dirt, their ribs faintly visible beneath it. They came straight toward him, tails low, eyes wide. One pawed gently at his leg, letting out a pitiful whimper. The other circled him, sniffing, then sat and stared as if waiting for something. Daniel crouched down, extending his hand. The braver of the two placed its tiny paw in his palm, gripping it tightly. It wasn't the behavior of lost pets. It was something more desperate, more urgent. When Daniel tried to take a step forward, they moved in front of him, blocking his path. Then, almost in unison, they turned and trotted a few feet away before looking back at him. They wanted him to follow. Daniel slowly knelt, letting the puppies come closer. Up close, he could see how thin they were, their tiny frames trembling. In the cool evening air, one had a small scratch on its ear, the other a burr tangled deep in its fur. They smelled faintly of damp earth and grass, as though they'd been outside far too long. The bolder pup pressed its paw into his hand again, while the quieter one tugged gently at his bootlace, letting out a soft whine. It wasn't random affection, it felt deliberate, almost like they were pleading. Daniel's brow furrowed. Dogs didn't behave like this unless they had something to show you. He glanced down the empty road, then back to the fields where they'd appeared. Is someone hurt? He asked softly, half to himself. The puppies turned and trotted a few steps away, then stopped, looking over their shoulders expectantly. Daniel hesitated for a moment. Following two stray puppies into the fields wasn't exactly on his evening plan, but something in their eyes, an urgency he couldn't ignore, pulled him in. With a sigh, he stood, brushing off his knees. All right, lead the way, he said. And without hesitation, they started guiding him into the unknown. The puppies darted ahead, weaving between tall stalks of grass that brushed against Daniel's legs as he followed. The late evening light cast long shadows across the field, and the air was heavy with the scent of wildflowers and earth. Every few steps, one of them would glance back, making sure he was still behind them. They moved with surprising determination for such small creatures, never straying from their chosen route. Daniel's boots sank slightly into the damp soil. As they crossed a shallow ditch, the sound of buzzing crickets filling the air. His curiosity grew with each step. This wasn't random wandering. They had a destination in mind. Occasionally, the bolder pup would stop and wait for its sibling, nudging it forward with its nose before they both continued. Daniel noticed how they seemed to work together, one leading while the other encouraged from behind. It was as if they were on a mission. The path narrowed, forcing him to push aside thick weeds. Somewhere in the distance, he thought he heard a faint sound, a muffled whimper, too soft to place. The puppies picked up their pace, ears perked, tails low. Daniel felt a strange knot of anticipation in his chest. They finally broke through a dense patch of brush, revealing a small clearing ahead. At its center stood an old, weathered shed, leaning slightly to one side. The puppies stopped just short of the door, turning to Daniel with eyes that seemed to say, "We're here. Now please help." Daniel approached the shed cautiously, the wood creaking under the faint breeze. The puppies stayed close, their small bodies trembling with anticipation. As he reached the warped door, a faint, pitiful sound reached his ears, a soft whimper, weak and desperate. His pulse quickened. He pushed the door open, and the scent of damp and neglect hit him instantly. A thin beam of sunlight slipped through a crack in the roof, falling onto a heartbreaking sight. Curled in the far corner lay a German shepherd, older and frail, her sides rising and falling with shallow breaths. Her eyes lifted slowly to meet his, glazed with exhaustion, yet still holding a spark of life. The puppies rushed to her side, licking her face and nudging her with tiny whines. That's when Daniel realized this was their mother. Her ribs were visible beneath her matted fur, and her paws twitched as if she'd tried to stand but couldn't. The truth sank in like a stone. These two tiny pups had left her side, braving the outside world, to find someone, anyone, who could save her. Daniel's throat tightened. Whatever he did next, he knew it had to be fast. Time was running out for her. Daniel dropped to his knees beside the mother dog, speaking softly so as not to frighten her. Her breathing was shallow, her eyes fluttering with exhaustion. He gently placed a hand on her head, feeling the faint warmth of life still clinging to her fragile frame. The puppies stayed close, whining as if urging him to hurry. He pulled his phone from his pocket and dialed the local animal rescue, his voice tight with urgency. "I've found an injured dog. She's in bad shape. Please, send someone now." The operator promised help was on the way. Daniel removed his jacket and draped it over her, trying to shield her from the damp chill of the shed. He found an old bucket in the corner, filled it with water from his bottle, and coaxed her to take a few sips. Her tongue barely touched the surface, but it was enough to give him hope. The puppies nestled against her, licking her muzzle as if to reassure her she wasn't alone. Daniel kept one hand on her side, feeling the weak but steady rhythm of her breaths. Every minute felt longer than the last. All he could do now was keep her alive until help arrived. The sound of tires crunching over gravel broke the tense silence. Daniel exhaled in relief as a white animal rescue van pulled into the clearing. Two rescuers jumped out, one carrying a medical kit, the other a folded stretcher. The puppies ran to greet them, tails wagging frantically, as if they understood help had come. The vet, a woman with calm eyes and steady hands, knelt beside the mother dog. She spoke in a low, soothing voice while checking her pulse, gently examining her frail body. "She's dehydrated, severely malnourished," she said, glancing at Daniel. "But she's still fighting." Carefully, they slid the stretcher beneath her. The puppies whined in protest, circling the rescuers until Daniel crouched and held them close. "They're taking her somewhere safe," he whispered. The words seemed to calm them, and they followed closely as their mother was carried toward the van. Before loading her in, the vet placed a reassuring hand on Daniel's shoulder. "If they hadn't found you, she wouldn't have made it much longer." Daniel looked down at the two tiny faces staring up at him and felt a lump in his throat. Somehow, these puppies had known exactly what to do, and they had saved her. At the clinic, the mother dog was given fluids, warm blankets, and the care she desperately needed. The puppies were never far from her side, curling up against her while she rested. Day by day, her strength returned. Her eyes grew brighter, her breathing steadier. Daniel visited often, bringing treats for the pups and sitting quietly beside their mother's kennel. Each time, the puppies would bound toward him, tails wagging wildly, as if remembering the moment he followed them into the fields. The mother, too, began to greet him with a gentle wag of her tail, her trust slowly returning. By the third week, the vet smiled as she announced, "She's ready to go home." Watching the little family together, Daniel knew this wasn't just a rescue story. It was the beginning of a new chapter for all three of them. Weeks later, Daniel stood in the rescue's outdoor yard, watching as the mother dog ran freely across the grass, her puppies chasing after her in a blur of energy. The sun bathed them in golden light, their happy barks filling the air. He thought back to that first encounter, two tiny figures on a quiet road, begging him to follow. They hadn't just saved their mother's life, they had reminded him that courage and love come in all sizes. As they bounded back toward him, he smiled. Some heroes, he realized, walk on four small paws.